Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to M4J Logistics here on Euro Truck Simulator 2. Still recovering, still getting my voice back. Still might need to clear my throat from time to time, especially as I'm going to be doing a lot of talking today. But I will do my best for you guys. Also, quick shout out before we get started. I'm recording these episodes in advance right now, but I'm going to have to stop after this particular episode because I will have run out of questions, I imagine. Because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more questions, and I think 2 of them I can't answer anyway because they're repeats. So we're pretty much going to be out of questions by the end of this episode. So, if there's any questions you can think of, Q&A style, doesn't necessarily have to be about me or the series or anything like that. It can be about anything vaguely related to the channel. Feel free to ask. Head over to my Discord Q&A channel and leave your questions there. You don't even have to follow the number system if you don't want to, because I should be able to remember who's asked what. Now I think the music's going to stop for just a second while I tab out of the game. I think I did answer the ones that I missed out before. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Okay, so we are right down the bottom of the list now. And the music starts up again. So we are currently in Vienna. And I believe, in fact, we've kind of done a big circle here, so there's nowhere new there that I could go to. So we might have to follow some old roads again. Maybe go down to Graz. Now, I did ask, I think it was 2 episodes ago now, whether I'd pronounced that right, and someone did say in the comments that yes, it's pronounced. Oops, it's pronounced Graz. So I'm kind of happy that I got that vaguely right. Can I remove waypoints? Yes. There we go. So I think maybe going towards Innsbruck and Munich. Actually, a Munich job would be quite good. Let's see if there's one to Munich. There's one to Prague, but we've been to Prague. Riem. Oh wait, hang on. Let's select Vienna, shall we? So we got Klagenfurt. How long's that? 4 hours. Graz. I mean, this one has quite a good... It's quite quick as well. Maybe we'll do 2 short hop journeys today. It's got a good pound per mile rate, this job. And it looks like a relatively straightforward delivery as well. Right, let's whack it in forward. Lights are already on. 9:30 PM and we're starting off on a 2-hour journey. And in fact, right here is where we're starting from, which is good. Although I do think if you're starting from the same place, it should just tell you where the trailer is straight away, because I've already selected the job once. Selecting it again feels a bit overkill to me. But there we go. Trailer is pretty much directly behind us. Oop, braked a bit hard there. There we go. Right. So we'll pull out onto the main road and then I'll answer the first question. Here we go. Okay, so the first question is, in the Somerset Hills International Resort, you mentioned that there's not only Global Ventures but 2 other parks as well. Are you ever going to build those parks? If you were to build them, what would they look like? So this is something I mentioned in Global Ventures quite recently, in fact. I mentioned the fact that there were 2 other parks, and also in my Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 series from way back in the day, I mentioned the fact that there was 2 other parks that were going to be part of the Somerset Hills International Resort. And yes, they are still sort of in the periphery. I'm still considering being able to build them. So we got Global Ventures, which is the theme park, the generic theme park. I'd say generic theme park, the traditional theme park, roller coasters, flat rides, that kind of thing. Then we have Wild Realms, which is very much inspired by Disney's Animal Kingdom. Although it will have more rides than Well, actually, it will sort of have more and less rides than Animal Kingdom, because obviously Animal Kingdom has roller coasters and things like that as well, whereas Wild Realms wouldn't. But it would have more safari-based attractions, so it wouldn't just be a one safari ride and that's it. There'll be a train ride, there'll be a jeep ride, all sorts of things like that. And then there's Ultimate Splashdown, which is a water park, where water coasters, water slides, wave pools, that kind of thing. So right now, in terms of my guy's tired, we're going to have to sleep on the journey. In terms of games where I can build these things, 2 out of the 3 technically already exist. Planet Coaster, as you will know, is where I'm building Global Ventures, but Planet Zoo has now been released, and Planet Zoo is actually a very good candidate to use for Wild Realms. Ultimate Splashdown is probably going to have to wait a little while, because until either Frontier or another developer release a water park type game, I know that it's either the makers of Parkitect have released a water park game, or someone has been inspired by Parkitect and has built a water park game. I don't actually know which way round it is, but there is a water park building game very, very similar to Parkitect. The problem with that, though, is it's not 3D in the same way that Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo is, so it will always feel like the outlier. So I'm quite happy to sit on the ideas for a little bit longer. Who knows, there might even be a game again in the future that will combine all 3 together, like Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 did. It did very well, I might add. Let me just slow down for this bend. So they're on the periphery, they're on the horizon. I'm quite happy with just doing Global Ventures for now, because it is a big project, and particularly recent times, very big project. Trying to get around the world in 80 days done. Oh boy, am I regretting my life's decisions now when it comes to that. There's so much still that needs to be done. Every time I load up the game now and I just look at the ride, I just think, oh, there's so much that still needs to be done. But it will get done. That guy shouldn't have pulled out there. Right, we've got a rest stop coming up here, so I will do some sleeping, and then we'll move on with the rest of this trip. Come on, truck. So the next question is, I think of your OpenTTD map as a main map, with some of the things you build in your other series existing somewhere on your OpenTTD map. Do you think so too? It's really interesting, actually, that that's come up. Where is the rest stop here, by the way? Yeah, it's where that truck is, isn't it? Alright, hang on. I'm going to do something completely illegal here and cut across grass. Wait, am I even in the right... I'm not. Over there's where the... Alright, hang on. I'm going to do something completely illegal again. Ow. That empty space there is where I need to be going. Right, hang on. Let me sort out this sleeping thing, then I'll ask that question again and answer it properly. Okay, so the question was, I think of your OpenTTD map as a main map with some of the things you build in your other series existing somewhere on your OpenTTD map. Do you think so too? Now, the reason it's interesting you ask that is because with the OpenTTD map, so the M4J network, I haven't considered that possibility. But when I used to play trains, a long time ago now, I used to build like custom heritage lines and things like that. Very much like what the Somerset Hills Railway was meant to be. And still will be one day, I'm sure. But right now, not happening. But yeah, the routes I used to build always used to have a stadium station where, not Hatfield Town then, it used to just be at like Jeffreys United or M4J FC, whatever it might have been. That's where they used to play their home matches. I also used to have, the theme park existed back then as well, and the terminus station up in the mountains or the hills, that's where the theme park was built. So, not so much for OpenTTD, although I have considered adding those sorts of things in. So maybe having a Somerset Hills Railway in OpenTTD now, and build it up in the mountains, or the hills. I probably should say hills, really. We don't really have mountains here in the UK. We do in Scotland, we do in Wales, but we don't in England. Especially not like the ones we can see here, in fact, because this is... And I'm going to do what Ben hates. He's already asked me about this once or twice, but I'm going to just pull over here. Stick the handbrake on. I'm going to take a quick screenshot. Is there a way to zoom out? I don't think there is. Oh, that's lovely. Look at that. Hide the HUD. Is it F2? No. F3? There it is. F12. I think that worked. Do you know what? I'll do another one just for safety. There we go. Right. As we were. So yeah, I might add some stuff like that into the M4J network now, just to add a little bit of interest. It will also, I suppose, make people want to watch the other series as well, seeing them in the M4J network. So yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. I like the sound of it. So stay tuned for that. Things like Hatfield Town Stadium is something I was considering building anyway in Hatfield, in Guard City, because I've sort of found some stadium eye candy pieces that I could pop down and make it look a bit realistic. But yeah, the rest of the stuff, I think it's a good idea. So we'll see about that. I need to pull out, but that car is definitely going to hit me. There we go. Let me just speed up past this crane truck. So, if you were to run a franchise based around freight transport by road in your OpenTTD map, what would you name such a franchise beside M4J Logistics? To be honest, I can't really answer that question because the answer I would give is M4J Logistics. You know, I chose that name for this series for a very specific reason. You know, UK freight haulage, you tend to have logistics somewhere in your name. So M4J Logistics would be the answer. If you put a gun to my head and said I absolutely could not choose that name, then probably M4J Haulage would be the backup name. But M4J Logistics is pretty much the name that I'd go with. And actually, in the M4J network, I will have a company for each form of transport. So obviously M4J Rail already exists. M4J Buses or M4J Transport is the overall umbrella name. So M4J Buses, I mean that sounds a bit basic, so it probably would just be M4J Transport as well for road vehicles. But M4J Logistics for trucks, M4J Cargo for ships, M4J Airlines for air. You know, very simple names. Does what it says on the tin kind of thing. Coming up with names is something I'm actually quite good at, but when it comes to keeping it simple, I'm also very good at doing that. Do you know any examples of a joint franchise, a franchise owned by multiple people, anywhere in the UK transportation sector? Name a rail franchise, and I can guarantee you that more than one company have an investment in it. For example, I mean, a lot of these now aren't existing anymore, but Stagecoach used to team up with Virgin quite a lot. So Virgin West Coast was, I think it was 60-40 in Stagecoach's favour regarding ownership. Virgin East Coast was 90-10 in favour of Stagecoach. And, I mean, Avanti now is a combination of Trenitalia, MTR, I think it is, which is, I believe, a Hong Kong-based company. And there's someone else involved, I can't remember who. But yeah, basically every rail franchise in the UK now is owned by multiple companies. They all combine together into a consortium and bid for these operations. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I think personally it means companies are less likely to go bust, but because these consortiums form a new company anyway to bid for these franchises, there's still always that risk, and that's what happened with Virgin East Coast. Really, is they had to hand back the franchise because they couldn't really afford to run it anymore, which is unfortunate. There was a lot wrong with that franchise. The awarding of it was perhaps a little bit premature. The fact that once you've given a franchise, you don't really get any help running it. It's all down to you. And Virgin aren't novices. They knew what they were doing. But there was so much that went wrong regarding infrastructure and upgrades and all that stuff that it completely ruined the franchise for them. To the point now where Stagecoach have effectively been blacklisted due to a pensions scandal, and because of that, Virgin now can't bid for any new franchises, which I think is also highly unfortunate. But hopefully that gets resolved in the future. I've done a little bit of reading. I don't know the full story, so I can't really comment on it, but I've done a little bit of reading. It kind of sounds like an overreaction on the part of the DFT, but unless you know the full story, it's very hard to comment on. What is my favourite CD or DVD? So I think I've talked about my favourite DVD in the past. It's a little mini disc of Iron Man that I used to have on my PSP. I must have watched that thing like 30-40 times. Iron Man is one of my all-time favourite films. Not just because of the film as a standalone, but also because of what it started. The whole MCU was kicked off by the success of that film. You think where we are now, that is quite incredible. And the fact that Iron Man wasn't really a massively known, massively popular superhero at the time. He was kind of the B-list of Marvel's superheroes. And yet, right now, very, very successful. So that's probably my favourite DVD, if you can count that as a DVD. It's technically a mini disc. CD. Jersey Boys soundtrack. I like musicals anyway. Jersey Boys is one of my favourite films also. It's definitely my favourite stage musical. So I do like listening to the CD of that over and over again. Probably more times than I should, but there we go. There was a period a couple of years ago where if you rode in my car with me, you'd have to listen to the Jersey Boys soundtrack. I have since stepped away from that. I now play music on my phone and use an aux cable. But some of their songs still appear on that, of course, because, my playlist is very, very varied. I have songs from all eras. I'm not one of these people that just likes a single band and that's it. There's no single band in the world where I like every single song they've ever made. I'm not one of those people. I like different types of music. So, I like Coldplay, I like a lot of their stuff, but I don't like all of their stuff. Same with Snow Patrol, same with even Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, to be fair. There's a few of their songs I'm not a big fan of. Fortunately, those don't appear in Jersey Boys, so don't have to worry about that. So yeah, I guess that's my very bad answer for that question again. Alright, I'm just going to park up here, and then we'll choose... Whoopsie doodle. We'll choose our next delivery, because I think I'm going to do 2 deliveries today. We're only 18 minutes in after all. So it's quite a cheap and cheerful job. We didn't get paid a huge amount, but it's quite a short job as well. So that's why I decided to take that one. So Freight Market, Graz to... I think we've been to Salzburg before. That is quite a high paying job though. That is quite a long journey though. Could go to Bratislava, but then we're painting ourselves into a bit of a corner. There's Klagenfurt again. Do you know what? I think we might do the Klagenfurt job. Because again, it's not paying a huge amount, but in terms of pounds per mile, it's quite high. So we are going to have to scooch over there quite quickly. In fact, it's here again. I think that's our trailer right there in front of us. Or it might be one of these ones. Can I drift? No. Not only have I messed that up. Oh, there we go. I thought I'd missed the marker there as well. That would have been fun. So it was this one, wasn't it? Klagenfurt. Yep, it was the trailer right behind us. So, reverse time. pretty sure in a real work environment, I've just broken several health and safety regulations there. But there we go. Okay, next question. If you had to leave the UK and stay in the EU before the 31st of December 2020, which EU country would you move to? Now, I've known about this question for a while, obviously, because I'm recording these episodes in advance. And I kind of want to be a bit mischievous here and throw in a loophole, because the answer I want to give is Ireland. You know, Ireland is an EU country. It's not part of the UK. It's not part of Great Britain. Northern Ireland is, but... well, actually, the full name of the UK is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Not many people know this, particularly people outside of the UK. So Great Britain is England, Scotland and Wales, and then the UK throws in Northern Ireland as well. So my answer to the question is Ireland, because, you know, English is still the primary language. It's also very close to England, so I wouldn't be moving too far away from home. And you know, it's so close to England, so close to England. The only difference really is, you know, Irish is spoken over there, obviously. So you might meet some people from time to time who don't have English as a primary language, but that's to be expected wherever you go in Europe. But also the fact that you know, they drive on the left, they use miles per hour. The only difference is the fact that they use euros as a currency rather than pounds, which I believe Ireland used to use pounds before they switched to the euro. But yeah, you know, switching to euro is such a tiny difference in comparison to, you know, moving to France, where suddenly you got to learn to drive on the opposite side of the road and you have to learn a whole new language, things like that. I mean, I can still say some things in French, but certainly not enough to hold a conversation. This junction doesn't seem dangerous at all. But yeah, Ireland is my answer. Ireland is my answer. It's a loophole. It's a bit mischievous, a bit cheeky, but it'd be a lot easier to move to Ireland than anywhere else in the EU. But ultimately, I'm not. What are you doing? Ultimately, I'm not planning on moving anywhere. I'll be staying here in the UK and just making do with what situation we end up in. And especially with everything that's going on right now, it's a very low priority. Everyone's pretty much forgotten about us leaving the EU with everything else that's going on. If you could build your own game... okay. So this question I'm not going to be answering. I'll read it out first and then I'll tell you why I'm not going to be answering it. If you could build your own game inspired by various games you have played for M4J, which 8 main features, one from each of the following games, would you include? So one from OpenTTD, Minecraft, Train Sim 2. I'm assuming that means Train Sim World, because Train Sim 2 doesn't exist. Euro Truck Sim 2, Cities in Motion 2, Planet Coaster, whoopsie doodle, Football Manager, and Space Engineers. Now, I'm not answering this question, and the reason I'm not answering this question is because it was asked to me 2 episodes ago by someone else, and I answered it then. So it wasn't quite as specific as which feature from this game would you choose, but I kind of wanted to ask this question out loud anyway, just so I can say, please don't steal other people's questions, and please don't feel like rewording someone else's question makes it yours, because it doesn't. I've answered the question before. If you've watched these episodes, you'll know I've answered the question before. So you can feel free to go back and rewatch previous episodes in order to get the answer. Because I've talked about, I think about 4 times now in this series, I've talked about what is my ideal game that I would make. And each time someone different has asked the question, and each time I've answered it differently. But ultimately, there is a game that I would like to make, and the reason I don't talk about it much is because I'm in the process at the moment of making it. So, hold the fort, basically. Hold the phone. Not the fort. Hold the phone. And wait. Because chances are in a year or two's time, you'll find out about what game I want to make. And how I intend on making it. Because it'll be for XVI. And there is a process that we're going through at the moment where we have a timeline for what games we're going to develop and when. So at the moment we're working on Project Cavier, which has now been fully revealed. In fact, by the time you're watching this video, it will have been, the demo will have been out for a week. So head over to the XVR website and check out the demo if you haven't done so already, because I promise you it is awesome. I've played it several times myself. In fact, by the time you're watching this, there might already be a video of it on my channel. So do check it out and do play it, and do leave some feedback on Steam if you enjoy it. Even if you don't enjoy it, leave some feedback, because we need to know how to improve the rest of the game. So yeah, I'm not answering that question, and that is the reason why. Hopefully you understand, but you know, this person's asked quite a few questions that have already been asked by other people, so I feel like I need to hammer this point home. Don't reword a question and ask it again, because it won't get answered. It'll just annoy me, and it also annoys the people who have already asked the question, because I've had messages from people in the past about that. Why is this person stealing my question? So please don't do that, because it's really not cool. So the last question of the episode is actually it's another one that annoys me, but not because it's a bad question, but because the example given is the one I probably would have chosen. So if you could assign any one director to make a TV series based on any game, who or what are you getting? And then in brackets, I would have Jon Favreau for Rainbow Six Siege. That's really annoying, because I wouldn't have chosen Favreau personally. I probably would have gone with somebody else. Mainly because Favreau is very busy at the moment. He's doing a lot of things like The Mandalorian, for example. But Rainbow Six Siege is a show that I would watch the hell out of. I think that would be an awesome show. There's so much lore. Everyone thinks it's just an FPS game, but it really isn't. There's so much lore behind the game. There's so many characters that you get to learn as you play the game. And you kind of learn about them as you're playing the game, which is something that very rarely happens in a game like Rainbow Six Siege. So they all have their own little quirks. They all have their own little things that make them stand out. And that it would just be such a good show. The little cinematic thing they did recently for the Rainbow Six Invitational, the Siege Invitational, give it its full name. It was a really good sort of taste as to what these operators are actually like, based on, you know, the game so far, all the little things that you learn about these characters, and each time new operators are introduced, they really fit them into the overall story incredibly well. So I'd love to see a Rainbow Six Siege series, probably on Netflix or Amazon or something like that. As to who would direct it, I don't really know. Someone who's a really good storyteller. I mean, with the amount of gore that you'd have in Siege, even in the game, someone like Tarantino, someone who knows how to develop characters as well, I think that would be a good fit. Or, you know, Favreau is another really good example, as you said, because he especially, I mean, I've listed Iron Man as one of my all-time favourite films, and Favreau made Iron Man. He was the director. And he so much of what made that film great was from Jon Favreau. He's also done things like The Lion King, The Jungle Book, The Mandalorian, as I've already said. So he's a really good choice. So I'm struggling a bit on the director, but Siege would be a good one I'd like to see. Let me just stick the handbrake. In fact, let me do this delivery, and then I'll finish the question. So, what other games do I play? I mean, obviously, OpenTTD, the mini-series, wouldn't do very well. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Battlefield series. Very much along the lines of Band of Brothers and the Pacific. So maybe like a third film to add to the, or mini-series, sorry, to add to that and make it like a trilogy. Band of Brothers is probably my all-time favourite TV series. The Pacific I never really got into, but I do see its merits. I'm not saying it's bad by any stretch, but I think I'm so hooked on Band of Brothers that even though it was the same team that made the Band of Brothers who made the Pacific, it just felt like apples and oranges to me, because I when I was at school I studied World War II as well, but only sort of the European campaign. We never really looked at the Pacific, so it felt like a new world, a new cast of characters, and a period of history that I'm not too familiar with. So really, I should rewatch it now I'm a bit older, and I'll probably appreciate it a lot more. But yeah, something like Battlefield that is set in both Europe and the Pacific. And I like the war stories from Battlefield 1. If they did it to that level of detail, but for World War II, to complete the Spielberg trilogy, I suppose it would be, because it's his company that develops the Pacific and Band of Brothers. Something like that would be awesome. I would watch the hell out of that as well. But yeah, that does it for this episode, guys. So like I said, I need more questions for next time. So you have, I think I've got 2 episodes in the bag at the moment. So you have 2 weeks basically, or a week and a half, to get some questions in for next episode. So please do that. Check out my Discord and go to the Q&A channel and ask questions there. Do check that your question hasn't already been asked. If it has been asked, it will have been answered. So please don't ask it again. But besides that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. What trucks would you like to see me drive? What countries would you like to see me drive in? What jobs would you like to see me do? If you have a contract job on World of Trucks that you'd like to see me complete, feel free to give me the details as well, and I'll do my best, because I like to sort of spread into that now as well. Now that I've done quite a lot of in-game jobs, I'd like to see what things there are on World of Trucks and how that system works, because it does look quite cool. It's like a multiplayer without the multiplayer kind of thing, which is a very interesting concept. And I know that Flight Sim and Train Sim have that kind of thing now as well. So I might check that out. Well, no, I will check that out. I might check that out soon, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, beyond that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.